All right, let's jump right in. Today, we are taking a deep dive into what might be one of the most powerful and, honestly, brutal chapters in American literature. We're talking about Chapter 2 of F. Scott Fitzgerald's The Great Gatsby. This is a trip into the dark side of the Roaring Twenties, a place where that shiny American dream starts to look a lot like ash.
So Fitzgerald doesn't ease us in at all, does he? He just drops us, bam, right into the Valley of Ashes. And you get it immediately. This isn't just a place on a map, it's a feeling. It's a symbol of all the industrial grit and moral decay hiding just out of sight from the fancy parties. And watching over this entire depressing scene, you've got these eyes. They're just painted on a beat-up old billboard, but man, do they feel bigger than that. It's like, are they the eyes of God, watching everything? Or maybe the opposite, a sign that nobody's watching at all, and everyone can just get away with, well, with everything. So yeah, this place is absolutely crucial. You have to have this dreary gray landscape to really understand the bright, glittering parties over in West Egg. This is the other side of the coin. It's the hidden cost of all that champagne and glamour. It's where the mess gets swept away. Think of it like this. It's the giant, dirty trash heap for the consequences of the rich's good times. All the glamour and gold from the parties, well, it turns to grime and ash here. And this is where we find the people who aren't living the American dream. They're being totally crushed by it. So how do we end up here in the first place? Through Tom Buchanan, of course. And the language Fitzgerald uses is so perfect. Tom doesn't ask Nick, he literally forced him. Right there, in that one word, you get everything you need to know about Tom. He's entitled, he's aggressive, and he's always, always in control. And this little forceful detour leads us straight to the home of two of the most tragic characters in the whole book. We're about to meet the residents of the Valley of Ashes, George and Myrtle Wilson. And wow, the contrast between these two is just stark. George is literally described as blending into the gray walls. He's lifeless, defeated, practically a ghost in his own garage. But Myrtle, she's the complete opposite. She's practically buzzing with this raw, desperate energy. She refuses to be another gray smudge in the background. The second they leave the Valley of Ashes and get to this tiny apartment in New York, the whole vibe shifts. And this isn't just about changing locations. For Myrtle, this is a chance to change her entire reality. And just look at the stuff she buys. A gossip magazine, some perfume, a puppy that's basically just a mutt. Every single item is like a prop. She's putting on a play, and in this play, she gets to be the star, a sophisticated lady living the high life. This is such a brilliant little detail because it shows you exactly what's wrong with her whole act. The furniture is way too big for the room, just like her ambitions don't quite fit her reality. It's crowded and suffocating, and you realize she's just as trapped here as she was back in the garage, stumbling through a life that isn't really hers. And the transformation is complete when she changes her clothes. Because in this world of make-believe, the costume is everything. Back in the garage, her dress had this raw energy. But now, in this fancy new dress, she puts on these airs, becoming arrogant and haughty. It's a total performance. So, as the party gets going and the whiskey starts to flow, the tiny apartment gets filled with more than just people. It gets filled with layers and layers of lies. And here it is, the biggest lie of the night. Myrtle's sister claims they can't get married because Daisy's Catholic. The thing is, Nick is sitting right there, and he knows for a fact that Daisy is not Catholic. This isn't just a little white lie. They've invented a whole story to make this cheap affair seem more dramatic and tragic than it actually is. And if you want to know why she's so desperate for this fantasy, this story tells you everything. She realized George borrowed his suit for their own wedding. And that's what made her cry. Think about that. Not a lack of love, but the fact that he wasn't the gentleman she thought he was. For her, it all comes down to the illusion of class and money. And that deep resentment is what fuels her whole philosophy, which is basically, you can't live forever. It's her personal mantra. For Myrtle, Tom and his money don't just represent wealth. They represent life itself. It's her one chance to escape that slow, gray, ashy death she feels is waiting for her back in the valley. But you just know this kind of fragile fantasy built on cheap whiskey and lies can't last. And it's all about to come crashing down in the most sudden and violent way you can imagine. And what's the trigger? A name. Daisy. By chancing Daisy's name, Myrtle is breaking the #1 rule.
She's dragging cold, hard reality into Tom's little fantasy world. And in doing so, she's challenging his power.
Fitzgerald slows the action right down here. The words are so cold and precise, a short, deft movement. It just creates this horrible, unbearable tension while we wait for what we know is coming next.
And there it is. In an instant, the illusion is shattered. Tom's reaction is quick, it's brutal, and it puts the power dynamic right back where he wants it. The party is definitely over.
This line from Nick pretty much sums up the entire chapter. It's our takeaway, too. He's a part of it all, but he's also an outsider looking in. And he's both fascinated and totally disgusted by this raw, messy, ugly side of humanity that he's just witnessed.
And that really leads us to the core question of the chapter, doesn't it? When the performance stops, when the fancy clothes come off and the lies run out, what's actually left? Well, Fitzgerald seems to be saying that underneath that thin layer of class and glamour, there's something really raw and violent. It's a pretty brutal reminder that the glittering American dream can hide a much, much darker reality.